Do you know about the 5 brainwave channels that run your brain, my brain, and everybody's brain on Earth? Well, if you'd like to know more, watch this video. Hi, my name is Jesse. Welcome to the channel Open Source Owners, where we try to answer the question of what if humans had an owner's manual? And before we get into it, let's just get into it. The brainwaves are electrical patterns of the brain that are measurable. So you can, with certain electrical reading devices, actually measure these reaching outside of the cavity of the brain. So they extend past the brain, but of course they're happening within the actual hardware of the brain. One could read somebody's brainwaves patterns and predict their current behaviors with a decent degree of accuracy. Okay, so these are not just interesting things happening in the brain. They correlate with behavior, with thought processes, whether somebody's awake or not awake, in a suggestible state, like aka hypnosis or not, etc. And so those 5 patterns are the delta brainwave pattern. Now, all of these have a lot more to them. I'm going to give us a very, very simplified overview, okay? But the delta is associated with deep, slow wave sleep, and you can see the hertz reading there. It's at 0.5 to 4 hertz, so it's measurable, it's within a certain range. Hertz is the same thing that music and sound comes on. So when we talk about sound, or when we tune a piano or a guitar, we're tuning to a certain hertz, and the brain is creating hertz as well, and the heart does as well. Theta is the next level up. This is the twilight state between sleep and wakefulness. We can achieve this through meditation or daydream type states of reverie, and childhood. Interestingly, when we're in our childhood up until about age 7, our brain is sort of in the theta mode pretty consistently, if not all the time, and that's in the 4 to 8 hertz range. And then comes alpha. This is sort of calm alertness. This is also sort of creativity. This is sort of accessible to the growing brain after age, let's say 7. I could be slightly wrong about that, but somewhere in that range is when this comes online for the developing human. And that is between 8 and 13 hertz, so it becomes a higher frequency wave. And then there's beta. This is more active, task-driven, working, problem-solving. If you're listening to this at work, you're in the beta state. If I'm doing this presentation, I'm in the beta state. It's a 13 to 32 hertz active mode of the brain where we're just sort of getting things done. We're going through, our day. We're having to solve problems quickly. We're having to just achieve, use executive function, that type of stuff. And then the last one that we will talk about here, which is gamma. This is associated with REM sleep. Sometimes it's referred to as the monk brain. Monks and trained meditators or yogis who have been doing sort of self-development work for years and years and years have a baseline state of gamma activation that is not seen in the normal human brain. Often we achieve this best in flow states and in psychedelic states. It's a much higher active brain wave, and in some circumstances, in Daniel P. Brown's work on awakening, in terms of the spiritual practice of trying to get the brain to be in an awakened state, which is the preliminary practice before we reach enlightenment, if you follow the sort of Eastern sort of cosmology of how the brain works and how human psyches develop, then gamma brain activity is highly associated with people who have had awakening moments or live in an enlightened or awakened brainwave state. Now, those two terms are slightly different. They're not the exact same, even though I just kind of smushed them together. Enlightenment means something specific, and Daniel P. Brown and his crew are doing the EEGs and the brainwave correlates to understand what's happening in the brain. So we'll know that information in the coming years. But what we do know about awakening is it's associated with background states of gamma. So the gamma wave sort of shows up in these states of flow or awakening. And it's sort of a master brainwave that cascades down and synchronizes all the other brainwave channels. And that's the only one that does that, is the gamma. So gamma is especially important and interesting, though of course all these are. Okay, so the original state of all children between 0 to 7 is the theta brainwave state. Now this is critical because this is like the open channel. This is why children learn new skills so easily. This is when learning is just you're downloading raw data from the universe, from the world, without much filter, without much, as adults, we learn that things are supposed to be this way or that way. Well, children don't have that. They don't have those filters, so they just take it all in. They absorb it all in. This is the state when we are wiring the nervous system, which includes the brain, to map our world. This is such a critical phase of the developing human. The Jesuits have a saying that give me a child to age 7 and I can predict the man that will sort of follow from that. Meaning, if you can have access to a developing child's brain and you can teach them how the world is and how the world isn't, by age 7, you've basically programmed that human and to live a certain way, to behave a certain way as an adult until they become aware of that programming and choose to change that. And we can always change our programming because we are humans and we have what's called neuroplasticity, which allows us to really, maybe more than any other, well, definitely more than any other creature that we know of, we can remap our brain, but only if we know about what was going on, what the programming was, the preset programming that was downloaded in our Theta Brainwave. So what do we learn? We learn basically all our beliefs of self, especially self-loathing and self-hatred. So if you are one of the many, many people that has a deep-seated sort of a core belief of self-loathing or self-hatred, then that pattern was encoded into you by age 7, usually even earlier than that, but it was done in an open channel, non-discriminatory brainwave pattern. As an adult, if you were living through the same circumstances, you would have different filters and you wouldn't allow beliefs to become so encoded into you because you're an adult. You have different filters, different beliefs. You recognize right and wrong. As a child, though, you don't have that. So you're really susceptible to bad programming at that age. Is the world safe or not? Are other people safe or not? AKA, this is what attachment styles are. If you don't know attachment, go ahead and check out the video that I'll link to this. I'll try to link it somewhere. Attachment is an absolutely critical thing to understand because it is the sort of the result of whether we recognize and are encoding into our brain whether the world is safe and people are safe or not. Can we get our needs met with other people? If we're vulnerable with other people, are they going to actually harm us or use that to their advantage? This all comes from that early 0 to 7 phase, and it links very meaningfully to our polyvagal system, which is our neuroceptive system. It allows us to sense whether the world is safe or not at a subconscious, very, very, very fast level. What else do we learn in this state? So we learn by 7 through our Theta Brainwave channel, depending on who we're around, our primary caregivers, all these types of things, we learn whether our internal sense that we are sort of a smart person or a dumb person, whether we're like interesting to others, sort of worth caring about. If we're like a curious child or more of a shut down, not curious child, are we able to express joy or sadness, anger, base emotions, right? We learn all that. Our internal world gets mapped for us in this open brainwave channel, 0 to 7 years of age. So that's really profound. So if we look at this chart, gamma should be on the top. Gamma is the highest frequency wave of all the brainwaves that we know of, as you can see there. So if we go one above that, delta is that green line that's sort of slowly aware of the world. But again, it's a sort of a deep dreamlessness sleep called slow wave sleep. And it's called slow wave sleep because the brainwave is doing a slow wave. Theta is the one that we're talking about right now. That is the open channel. That is the channel where you go into, if you're susceptible to hypnosis, it's because you can easily get into a theta brainwave state. This is where children learn all that stuff about whether they love themselves or love the world, trust other people, don't trust other people, etc. So then the question is, and we'll do a separate video on this, the question is if you want to rewrite the brain maps, if you want to sort of say, hey, I don't like the maps that were built into my brain by age 7. I'd like to alter them so that they're a little bit more functional, so that they're serving me a little bit more, so that I don't just deeply dislike myself or hate myself at a core level. Then the best place to rewrite those channels is the same place that originally wrote them, which is the theta brainwave state. This is why clinical hypnosis is actually quite effective for things like depression and anxiety, self-dislike and stuff like that. There's good clinical research on hypnosis, but it's because it takes advantage of a very foundational understanding of how the brain works. There's an install channel. There's an open to installing new information channel, and that is the theta brainwave state. So how do we get into that? Well, we do things like deep meditation, we do things like deep relaxation, and then we begin to install new programs. Could be positive affirmations, it could be deep therapy. It could be psychedelic assisted therapy. These are the types of things that will install new programs into the brain really quickly. Now, there are other ways, like near-death experiences actually install new brainwave patterns, or I should say new brainwave states and belief systems very quickly too. But those are very, you don't get a lot of control over near-death experiences. You can't just prescribe one. The closest you can get to a near-death experience that is actually clinically relevant is psychedelic-assisted therapy, which is a profound brainwave alteration and a profound reorganization of our belief systems, but in a controlled way that you're in no danger. And with psychedelic assisted therapy, you're doing it in the comfort of, a very comfortable place with people around you who will keep you safe. And then you have therapy afterwards, in days or weeks after, to consolidate what happened, to make sense of it, to reorganize our brain into these different patterns. And what psychedelic assisted therapy does is it quickly remaps the brain. Deep belief systems can get changed very, very quickly with psychedelic assisted therapy. So that's not for everybody, though. Not everybody's interested in that, or they don't trust it, or it scares them. So the other way to sort of reprogram the brain, and again, we'll talk about this in another video, but just quickly, is sort of slowly but surely pruning the brain using the alpha and the theta brainwave states strategically to change our brain to how we want it to perform for us, instead of letting it run subconscious programs that were written way before we had volition or choice. So hopefully that was interesting to you. I certainly find brainwaves to be critical. It's necessary to our understanding of coping skills, therapy, getting better, improving, habit formation, achieving things in life. If we don't understand the brainwave patterns, then we're not really understanding the map. We don't really understand the territory that we're navigating. And then, of course, our skills, our practices, our goals and aspirations they're more clumsy, less strategic than if we do know about brainwave channels and then we actually use them. So if you'd like to know a lot more information and you'd like to download this free 60-page ebook that I wrote called The Owner's Manual Part 2, all about learning and knowledge, please click the link below. That's freely available for everybody. It's just a really deep document with lots of information. Check it out if you haven't checked it out. It's totally worth it. And it's free. What the heck, right? So that was, do you know about the 5 brainwave channels that run your brain? And now you do. So congratulations. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, do the bell, share this with people, and comment. If you know something that you could teach others about brainwaves, put it in the comments below. People will read it. I'll read it. I'll learn. If you have an interesting anecdote to add about brainwaves, put it in the comment below. Comments and interaction is way more fun than me just making these videos on my own in my office. So I'd rather engage with you. I will see you in the next video. I hope you have a good day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.